What kind of a country are we prepared to hand off to our kids and our grandkids? Liberty is cool. Standing up to government is cool. Why? Because government has been coming down on top of us. And more Americans are starting to realize just how costly that big government is. Not just here in Illinois, but everywhere.
Top-down, corporate-controlled, one-size-fits-all education reform has been snuck in the back door of our state through the Race to the Top grant, which included Common Core state standards.
The federal government confirmed what we have long known to be true about Illinois, and that is that Illinois state government is set up as a conspiracy to defraud Illinois taxpayers. Just last week in Springfield, a House committee authorized $2.5 billion in new debt.
You are awesome and you are the solution. I say champion because I'm Carol Parisi, and I have the honor and privilege to be a co-host with the person I'm going to announce here, Mr. Jack Roeser. Mr. Jack Roeser has been championing the Tea Party principles before we came here 5 years ago. Mr. Roeser has been known as a skunk at a picnic. And we like that. That's a good thing, bringing the truth and transparency, and loves the grassroots. We are the grassroots. We are the solution. Mr. Roeser and I have our show on Sunday, WIND AM 560, The Answer. We're on every Sunday at 8 a.m. And you can also look us up on YouTube at Champion News Online. I don't know how many of you know Mr. Roeser's story, but he has been fighting the conservative cause. He gives to conservative candidates, he supports them, and we actually have had some great successes. But without further ado, the iconic and legendary Mr. Jack Roeser.
Fourscore and 9 years ago, my little Irish mother gave birth to me here in Chicago. I got a memory. I can remember the 1930s when they had a saying here, if you can't get a job in Chicago, you can't get a job anywhere. Well, that changed a lot. 1948, a rich man, actually the president of Duesenberg, hired me to start a company. I had to learn something about selling the things that I was designing. And I had to learn all about the country and how you moved goods. I found out a lot about how Chicago, Cook County, was at that time the biggest industrial force in the whole nation. We led in 10 different industries. We were double the output of any county in the United States. Chicago and Illinois were the biggest, strongest industrial piece of work in the whole world. That's what we had. And look what we've got now. The Democrats have spoiled the work of our forefathers and have given us a state that's buried in crookedness and debt. Both of them. Two evils at once. How can you stay calm and talk about any other issue than the crooks in the state? You got a do-nothing attorney general in young Madigan, and you got the other Madigan running the legislature the way he wants to do. Those people, they wear the collar for the rotten state that the state of Illinois is in right now. The Republican Party, however, is not adequate to the solution the way it stands. The top end of the party is gone. The donors and the people that were supposedly leading the party have mostly gone away. Luckily so, their absence is appreciated, and we can take over and rebuild the Republican Party in a year that it's ahead of us. The Tea Party, and I'm the oldest Tea Party guy in the state. I'm 89 years old. I'm going to be 90 this summer. And we're going to rebuild the Republican Party and take it over from the rotten Democrats. You really got an enemy. You can get out and do it, but it's not going to be done by just the person at the top. I got my own idea about who the governor should be, and we'll talk about that later. But we've got a strong man in the wings that could well lead us. But what he's going to need is a strong party out in the streets and getting door to door and talking to people. Technology is great, but what is really important in politics is to get out and press the flesh and talk to the people. The Tea Party people understand that the values they have are going to lead to victory in elections. That's what it is, values to victory. So God love you all, get to work, and realize that there are a whole bunch of us that are going to help lead this party. We'll find the money, and we'll do the thing, and we got to have a strong party at the bottom, and that's going to be the Tea Party bringing on the energy and all. So God love you. We're in Illinois, we're going to fight for our state. God love you all.
Hi, this is Carol Parisi reporting live from the Chicago Tax Day Tea Party 2013. 5 years ago, the belly of the beast, it started here. And our very first guest is David Earl Williams. And David, tell our listeners and viewers who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, well, I'm running for the 9th Congressional District in Illinois here, and that will be against Andrzejewski. So what I plan on doing is to win, make some real changes, lower taxation, true equality, not favoritism for everyone. And I plan on actually representing the people.
So what is the difference between your policies and Andrzejewski's policies?
Well, lower taxation for one, not spending the federal budget recklessly on silly things. I tend to have him be pro-life. She's obviously for abortion. Other differences, I'm for the fair tax. She's for higher taxation, which is killing the private industry, along with the fact that, we have a high corporate tax of 35%. It should be lowered to 12%. That would bring some business back, though.
Well, anything else you want to have our viewers hear about you, and when are you starting your campaign? Well,
we've started very early here, just going around and getting name recognition and having people check out the website, which I have to spell out. It's at DEWFORcongress.com, and you can also find us on Facebook as well. Okay, and you're David Earl Williams. Go check him out on Facebook and go to his website. Thank you, David. And are you having fun here today? I am having fun here, yeah.
It's a great energy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Here at the 2013 Chicago Tax Day Tea Party in the belly of the beast, and right now we have Mr. Joel Pollak with us. Joel is a friend to the movement. Joel, let's hear a little bit about you, just in case our listeners may not know who you are.
Well, I was raised right here in the Chicago area, ran for Congress in 2010, and...
who did you run against in 2010?
Andrzejewski, and we had a fantastic campaign. A lot of alumni are here today at the Tea Party rally. And right now I'm the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, which is based in LA, so that's where I live today.
So you left Chicago to go to California?
Yeah, I went from number 49 in political freedom to number 50 in terms of U.S. politics. But it's a beautiful state, lots of wonderful people, crazy politics, just possibly salvageable, but we'll see. But it's a good place to be, and I love it. The weather's obviously great. My wife's studying for a PhD there, so we'll be there for a while.
Now, Joel, what is the hope for Illinois? Is it hopeless? Do you think California is hopeless? What's the hope for America in your vision?
I think that I would support any politician who's willing to run on a platform of let's take the state bankrupt. Let's take the state into bankruptcy and start over and renegotiate all these contracts and all these obligations and make the political decisions that much easier. I think, frankly, that's what it's going to take for people to step up and do the right thing, because right now the hidden assumption behind, I think, Democratic Party politics in both Illinois and California is that eventually Obama and the federal government are going to bail us out. Of course, that hasn't happened, and part of the reason it hasn't happened is because the Tea Party won in 2010. giving Republicans state legislatures around the country. They redistricted. That means Republicans will hold the House for the next decade. That means no bailouts for the states. So there either are going to have to be some drastic cuts to essential services, or there's going to have to be a reorganization of state debts. And I think better a reorganization of debts than cuts to essential services. So I think, any enterprising politicians out there who want to get my support for what it's worth, I think that's a great idea. Just say, look, let's get this done. We have to reorganize our states, get back to responsibility. We've proven in some states incapable of electing people who will do this. Local media is against us. The local media don't talk about the problems in our state and so forth. And in places like Chicago, LA, they've become one-party states, and it's not an answer to our political problems.
Isn't that kind of a radical protocol, though? Isn't that kind of Cloward Piveny to have the state go bankrupt? And can a state go bankrupt, Joe?
Well, bankruptcy is a form of managed collapse, where it's you stop payment of debts for a while until you clean things up and start over. Cloward Piveny is about bringing down the system, like ending it entirely, and then having somebody swoop in and redistribute everything. It's a little bit different, but really, I think that we're stuck with a situation where commitments were made that can't be delivered on, and where spending continued, borrowing continued a lot longer than it should have, and the state's politicians just never do anything about it because many of them are afraid of the power in the speaker's office, number one, and number two, because they don't want to go home and have to tell people that they cut funding for X or Y, or a road's not coming through our neighborhood the way we thought it was, and so on. And everybody's favoring cutting pork, they just want someone else's pork to be cut. Another way to look at it is just, look, let's just clear the decks, let's start over, put the state on firm financial footing the way you would in a company. You don't let a company lose money year after year after year, you reorganize it. We know a lot about that in Chicago. Airline hub, lots of airlines have been through that, not just post 9/11, but beforehand, to reorganize for new markets, new era of competition, and that's what's happening. We're not competing as a state, either in California or Illinois, and I think both need to be restructured. So I think an enterprising way for a conservative to run would be to say, let's reorganize the state completely financially. And I've suggested this to a couple of people. Don't know if it's being taken seriously. Maybe it sounds a little radical, but I think that's what the states need. They need actually sensible radical change.
Well, thank you very much, and we will be having Breitbart, some of Joel's work from Breitbart posted on Champion News, and good luck to you. It's an interesting concept. We now have Chip Borman with us from the Heritage Foundation, and hi, Chip, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Great. What do you think of the belly of the beast here in Chicago for this tax day tea party, fifth one?
This is amazing. I love being here in Daley Plaza. I love to see all the Democratic office workers looking down at us and amazed that we're out here for the full 2 hours talking about taxes and freedom and liberty, and I'm loving it. I love being here. This is it. This is ground zero of Democratic activism, and we've taken it over. It's like Occupy Daley Plaza today.
Occupy Daley Plaza for the conservative patriots. Tell us a little bit, Chip, about what the Heritage Foundation is doing.
What Heritage Foundation is doing is we've had a problem with the foundation. The problem is that we have no ability to talk to the actual people, the donors, and the supporters of Heritage Foundation and urge them to action. The idea that 700,000 members of Heritage Foundation can't be told, call your congressman, go to a rally, write your members of Congress, write your letters to the editor of the Daily Herald or the Tribune, and speak up for conservative values. So Heritage Action was born. We're a division of Heritage Foundation that takes it to the voter, takes it to the street. Ronald Reagan once said, if they won't see the light, we'll make them feel the heat. And that's on my personal webpage. That's the motto, what Heritage Action gets to do. We get to go out there and talk about these issues in a very political, action-oriented environment. Heritage Action for America, action is really, literally our middle name.
What are your hopes for America, Chip?
I'm optimistic. This rally here gives me faith that if we can do this in Chicago, and this is happening all over the country, just like this, then we have a great hope in America. The idea that freedom, liberty, the idea that you can keep more of what you earn in your own pocket, these are universal ideas. We shouldn't be talking about areas around the edges. We should be talking about freedom. I could go into almost every neighborhood in Chicago, and I could grab any random person on the street and tell them, do you want to keep more of the money you earn? Do you want to give it away and waste it on useless programs? Or do you want to keep it? You worked hard for it, keep it. That's a universal theme that we can talk about, and I think we can sell that in future elections to America.
Well, that's Chip Borman, and I'm sure you go to the heritagefoundation.org and sign up there. And thank you very much. Happy Tax Day. Here at the Chicago 2013 5th year anniversary of Tax Day Tea Party, we have David Fromm with us from Americans for Prosperity. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Caroline?
Good. So what is Americans for Prosperity? Prosperity is a good thing, and that's what America should be. What are they doing right now here in the state of Illinois and around the country?
Sure. Here in the state, we're trying to fight taxes on the local level. We just beat 22 tax increase referenda on the local level last week. And then we're really working hard to try to oppose any efforts to institute a progressive income tax, which would basically be a tax increase for Illinois, which would be a constitutional amendment. And then we're on the federal level, we're trying to educate voters and then to go see their members of Congress to tell them that we need to stop overspending. That's really our main push is let's stop overspending so that we don't have to keep raising taxes on the people who are creating jobs.
Well, I know waste, fraud, and abuse is pretty abundant here. What do you think of this great turnout for the Tea Party, 5th anniversary of the Tea Party today?
I think it's wonderful. I mean, these are people who've been coming for a lot of them for 5 years, but some of them this is their first one, and that's the key here because there's a lot of people that we need to keep educating, and there's people who are motivated. I mean, every year more and more people wake up to realize that their hard work is being devalued, that they're earning less and less because the government wants to spend more and more, and the more as they keep waking up and run for office and take action, that's how we're going to keep getting, try to take our country back and make real policy change.
Any final words for our viewers on how they could join Americans for Prosperity if they haven't already done so?
Sure. The best way is to go to www.afpil.org. That's afpil.org. And just, get involved with any group, your local Tea Party, AFP, Heritage Action. There's a lot of good folks all working together to try to change the course of this nation.
We now have Illinois Tea Party leader Denise Catoni with us, and this is the Tea Party. Denise, were you here 5 years ago?
Well, yes, Carol, I was here 5 years ago.
I knew that.
It's been a very long 5 years.
Look in the camera, and how do you think the Tea Party has changed or morphed from or grown over the past 5 years?
The folks in the Tea Party really spend most of their time looking at legislation and holding their legislators accountable, both in the state and also at a federal level. Obviously, the Democratic Party right now is running the state of Illinois and Washington, D.C., so there's a tremendous amount of activity. So we stick to the fiscal issues. However, it's pretty much nonstop on what they would like to tax us next, or a budget that just adds another $1 trillion, and it's pretty much endless legislation.
Denise, I noticed you have something on you that says Stop Common Core Illinois. What could you tell our listeners about this Common Core and how it affects them?
Common Core is actually the federal government taking over the education system. And in America, it's actually supposed to be just the opposite. So what happened is Race to the Top is actually the Obama administration's new education system, and Governor Quinn in January of 2010 took federal money and then brought Common Core into the state of Illinois. So unfortunately in Common Core, it is a global system that has never been tested. The teachers didn't talk about it, the school boards didn't know about it, and it is actually a nonpartisan issue because there are certainly teachers have looked at this. They're afraid to say anything about what they're actually teaching. It's in math and English classes right now. It doesn't actually go into effect until 2014, 2015. So there is a chance that we can get to the Illinois legislators and let them know that we don't want Common Core in Illinois.
And there's a website, and it says stopcommoncoreillinois.org.
Yes,
What is
there's all kinds of information on there. There's actually a letter for parents to opt out if you don't want your kids in there. Homeschooling parents thought that they were not going to be affected by this, and it turns out they are going to be. Also, the Illinois Lutheran school system, it is in their schools. They weren't aware of it until recently. So there's a tremendous amount of information. We just put this website up yesterday so that you can get anything you need on that website, including all of the states actually have Facebooks literally from all 50 states and how they're fighting legislation in their states.
So this is for the kids. Now, Denise, what is one thought? There's a lot of confusion as to what the Tea Party movement is, what it represents. It's the Republican Party, it's going away. What is the one main key thought that you would like our viewers and listeners to hear about the Tea Party?
We really honestly are citizens who are concerned about the debt that's being incurred for our children and our grandchildren. It's really that simple. It's not a Republican issue. We're not Republicans. The reason that so many Republicans were elected in 2010 is because they come closer to believing in smaller government and less taxation. However, that's why you see the anger in the Tea Party movement when we elect Republicans who then do the exact same thing that the Democratic Party is doing. All we ask of them is that they stick with their principles. That's what they were elected to do, and we ask that they continue with that, which unfortunately doesn't happen, particularly in the state of Illinois.